This is definitely one of the most powerful small form factor PCs we've put together over here, and it really comes down to the new low profile GPU we opted to use. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's ETA Prime back here again. Today, we're going to be putting together a super small form factor mini gaming PC that's coming in a little under 5 liters small. So, this thing is super tiny, but it's still going to pack a punch. And there's several ways you can go about this. But in order for me to get the best performance out of this, I wanted to use a brand new low profile GPU that just hit the market. In fact, I do consider it the best low profile dual slot gaming GPU that you can get at the time of making this video. In this video, I'm going to go over everything as we put it together. We're also going to get into some testing, but before we get started, I do want to mention that this video is sponsored by URCD Keys. I've been using this site for quite some time now. They offer Steam keys, Uplay, Ubisoft, but the main thing I pick up over here are Windows 11 Pro keys. And right now, if you use code ETA, you can get 25% off. So at checkout, we'll just enter the code ETA. That's going to bring the price down to $22.88. They're going to email you that key, and then you can activate Windows. Speaking of that, let's head over to a new PC that I recently built. As you can see, we're running Windows 11, and from Settings, we're going to go to Activation Settings. It's going to tell us that we're not active. We don't have a key installed, so we're just going to paste it right in here, choose Next. It's going to activate Windows for us, and we're ready to go. If you're in need of cheap Windows keys, I'll leave a link in the description, and remember, you can use code ETA for 25% off. So again, this build is going to come in a little under 5 liters, and as you can see, this is a really tiny case here. But the first thing I want to talk about here is the GPU, because when it comes down to it, this is going to be one of the most important pieces to a mini gaming PC. And for this, we're going to be using the all-new low-profile RTX 5060. I know there's some hate around the 5060 when it comes in a normal form factor, but I gotta say, what they did here with this low profile is exactly what I was hoping for out of a small form factor 5060. As soon as the 5000 series NVIDIA cards launched, this is exactly what I wanted. It does require one 8-pin PCIe connector. We've got a triple fan design here, and it's coming in with the same form factor as last year's low-profile RTX 4060 from Gigabyte. In order for everything to fit inside of this small form factor case, I had to go mini ITX with this build. I'm going to be using the MSI B650 Edge Wi-Fi. I've had really good luck with this board, and obviously it's an AM5 socket, so we can go Ryzen 7000 or 9000. I opted to use the AMD Ryzen 7 9700X, mainly because it was already in the board. I had this thing in storage. I'm going with the stock AMD Spire cooler, and I'm not exactly sure how well it's going to work out with this 9700X, but we'll take a look once we get into testing. Pretty sure we'll be able to keep it under 80 degrees inside of this case because there's a lot of ventilation with this setup. When it comes to storage, I've got a 1 terabyte Hynix PCIe 5.0 M.2 SSD installed here. Nice little cooler on this MSI board. System memory is going to be handled by 32 gigs of Kingston Fury running at 7200 megatransfers per second, obviously running in dual channel. And we're going to be using that Wraith Spire with the 9700X. I haven't done this before. I've always used an aftermarket cooler, but I think it'll be just fine. This case is definitely one of my favorite small form factor cases. I picked this up on AliExpress and it's known as the A24. There's a couple different versions of this. They make a single slot, but we needed that dual slot for the RTX 5060. And you can see it's going to sit right down at the bottom here. It does come with some extra brackets to mount a power supply and everything like that. But we've only got enough room for a mini ITX, but it fits right in here. And with this Wraith Spire, I didn't even have to remove the AMD ring. That's one thing I was a little worried about. I didn't want to go with the Wraith on this 9700X. So the Spire is a bit taller. And as you can see with the side panel on, it's just going to pull air right in over that cooler. So I think we'll be fine as long as we're not doing any crazy overclocking with this setup here. Now it's time to add the power supply, and you'll notice there's not a lot of room to work with. This only supports a flex power supply, otherwise known as a 1U power supply. I've got a 500 watt Apiva, and I've used this before with the 9700X and the RTX 4060. NVIDIA does recommend at least a 550 watt for the new RTX 5060, but given how much power the motherboard, CPU, and GPU are really going to pull, 500 for this small form factor is going to be fine. Done a couple calculations here and there, and it looks like, maximum full boat, this thing is only going to pull around 320 watts. So I've got everything wired up. I could definitely use a couple more zip ties, but I want to get this GPU installed, and I'm not sure how I'm going to route this 8-pin, but it is required for this RTX 5060, and that's about the last thing we need to put in this case. Should slide right down in here. And this case does come with a couple brackets to hold everything in place, like our power supply and GPU. So once I get everything wired up, I can install all of that. Nothing's going to go anywhere. And it looks like I will have to reroute this 8-pin. Yeah, just to make it a little cleaner, I'll go ahead and figure something out. Yeah, not too bad. I just had to put it up under the other power supply wires, but it plugs right in. We're not going to be hitting anything on that side panel, and it actually went together pretty nicely. Super clean little build. We'll go ahead and boot this up for the first time. We'll also have to install that side panel, but the last thing I need to do is just get some drivers installed here so we can get into some testing with this setup. Taking a look at some benchmarks that I ran on this system, and when it comes to Geekbench 6, single core is looking great here with a 3,198, multi 13,765, and to tell you the truth, we are a little on the lower end side when it comes to our multi-core score here, and it comes down to the fact that this is boosting up to around 87 watts. We could go higher with it, but I wanted to mind the temperatures because we're using that Wraith Spire cooler. Usually with this chip here, kind of just maxed out, no overclocking, around 16,000 on multi. Still not bad for what we've got. Checking out some GPU benchmarks with 3D Mark, Steel Nomad coming in with a 3,165, and our FPS was 31.65 with this low profile RTX 5060. And finally, Time Spy with a total score of 13,433. Our graphics score is right there at 13,629. And I also ran the same system with the low profile RTX 4060. We scored an 11,000 over there, and our CPU score was a bit higher with the test. And if I ran these over and over side by side, we'd probably even out on that CPU score. But as you can see, I mean, this RTX 5060 is much faster than the 4060. Now it's time to check out some real world gaming. We've got Cyberpunk 2077 1440p Ultra preset. Not bad at all. We're seeing an average of around 72 FPS. And we could enable some DLSS with the Ultra preset, even though I've got an NVIDIA card, it's using FSR. With DLSS 4, or the Transformer model, set to quality, we might see a bit more, but I mean, this is fully playable. But there's a lot more that we can get out of this, and I'll tell you, the main reason I was really excited about a low-profile 5000 series card was for NVIDIA's multi-frame gen. This is not a $2,000 card, it's not an RTX 5090, so I do not mind using frame gen on a small form factor build like this, and as you can see, it really helps out. So now, we're at 1440p, Ultra preset, DLSS 4 multi-frame gen set to X4, and we're seeing over 180 FPS on average. And I'll tell you, if I was to have this side by side with a system that was running it like this with no frame gen, I personally really couldn't even tell the difference. And I know there's a lot of people out there that just don't like fake frames, but when you're working with a lower end system like this, I do think it's totally worth turning something like this on. I also wanted to check out Doom the Dark Ages, and I had to drop this down to high with DLSS set to balance, and it really comes down to only having 8 gigs of VRAM with this RTX 5060. Really wish it was a 12 gig card, because then I do think that we could go up to Ultra with this. If you take a look at Afterburner, our VRAM is right there at almost 7 gigs, so we're almost eating into all the VRAM we have here. I personally don't play Fortnite, so usually when I get in here and test it, I go to like the party mode, I believe it's called. So I'm not sure if it's going to be much different during battle or not, but we're seeing a really good frame rate here at 1440p Epic with DLSS set to quality. By the end, we had an average of 194 FPS. God of War Ragnarok ran amazingly on this system, and I kind of figured it would. It's a very good PlayStation port. They did an amazing job here. 1440p Ultra with DLSS set to quality, getting an average of 90 FPS. Marvel Rivals 1440p Ultra with no DLSS, looking at an average of around 92 FPS, and with DLSS enabled set to around balanced, we can lock this up over 120. This is another one of those games that has DLSS multi-frame gen. Personally, I don't like using frame gen with multiplayer games, but it's here if you needed it. And the final game I wanted to test here was Oblivion Remastered, and it's kind of all over the place. This is just how it's been since it launched, and I really do hope within the coming weeks we do get some really good patches. But at 1440p high, we're sitting anywhere between 65 FPS up to 95 FPS. And in some cases, it does jump over 100 FPS. So yeah, again, it's just kind of all over the place. With a small form factor build like this, I'm always monitoring temps on the GPU and CPU. Wanted to see what this 9700X did with this Spire cooler, and of course, this case does have a lot of ventilation, but it's still very compact. Through my testing here, average 1440p CPU temps were 75 degrees Celsius, and this is with the stock fan curve. I could probably turn this up a bit, still not getting too loud with that Spire cooler. Maximum recorded while benchmarking was 82. An average 1440p GPU temps were 70 degrees Celsius, and the maximum recorded there was 74. So adjusting these fan curves on the GPU and CPU would really help out here. But I left the stock fan curves, and even with it set up like this, we never hit thermal throttle on the CPU or GPU with this setup. Overall, I do think it's a really good performer. Love the form factor here. Again, it's one of my favorite cases, coming in under 5 liters. There's not much more that we can add to this. I mean, we're pretty maxed out, especially with that GPU. At the time of making this, I'd say this RTX 5060 dual slot low profile card is the way to go for a build like this if you're looking to get the maximum performance. But that's going to wrap it up for this one. If you're interested in putting something like this together, I'm going to leave links in the description to everything I used in this build. You could always substitute. You could go with the lower end CPU. I'd say something with an AM4 5600X and this 5060 would still rock it out at 1440p. Be a nice setup, and you could definitely save some money right there. If you've got any questions, or if there's anything else you want to see running on this thing, just let me know in the comments below. Like always, thanks for watching.